Hello students, I am here today in the TV studios of AIOU to help you understand the 6th unit of your course, Educational Psychology. So far, we have successfully covered the first 5 units and I hope your concepts based on them are clear. Today we will discuss the topic of learning and the many theories attached with this concept. Let's begin today's lecture by looking at the meaning and nature of learning first. During the 20th century, the concept of learning underwent important developments. Today, the dominant concept is socio-constructivist, in which learning is understood to be importantly shaped by the context in which it is situated and is actively constructed through social negotiation with others. On this understanding, learning environments should be where constructive, self-regulated learning is fostered. The learning is sensitive to context. It will often be collaborative. Theoretical concepts do not yield concrete prescription for classroom application, but good theory can be used flexibly and creatively by teachers in their planning and educational practice. At the same time, not all erring takes place in the classroom, as much of it occurs at home, on sports field and in museum and so forth. What is adoptive expertise? Many scholars agree that the ultimate goal of learning and associated technique in different subjects is to acquire adopted expertise. For example, the ability to apply meaningful learning knowledge and skills flexibly and creatively in different situations. This goes beyond acquiring mastery or routine expertise in a discipline. Rather, it involves the willingness and ability to change core competencies and continually expand the breadth and depth of one's expertise. It is therefore central to lifelong learning. There are different broad approaches that can help to develop adopted expertise, such as the guided learning. The teacher takes the main relevant decision about the goals of learning, learning strategies, and how to measure outcomes while taking care of feedback, judgments, and rewards. Now we'll talk about action learning. The learner plays a more active role in determining the objective of the learning than in guided learning. There is a strong element of learner self-organization and self-planning. Now we will talk about the experimental learning. This is not controlled by teachers and there are no predetermined objectives. What is learned is determined by the context, learners' motivations, the others with whom they come in contact, discoveries made, etc. It is a byproduct of the activities in which people are involved. In order to support the progressive acquisition of adopted expertise, there must be a balanced, integrated use of all 3 approaches. Such a balance should allow for structure and guidance by the teacher, and it should create space for substantial, self-regulated and self-determined learning. It should leave open opportunities for expressive outcomes, which involves unanticipated results from the learning that takes place in a variety of situations outside school and classroom. What are theories of learning? Psychologists have tried to explain how people learn and why they learn. They have conducted many experiments on animals and children and come to certain definite conclusion which explains the modes of learning. These are called as theories of learning. In many books, these explanations are treated as kinds of learning. In a sense, it is true. But the term learning is very comprehensive. It covers a wide range of activities which cannot be explained within a limited framework. Today, we will be looking at some of the important ones among them. Let's begin with trial and error theory of learning. Now let's talk about trial and error theory of learning. Trial and error is a method of learning in which various responses are tentatively tried and some discarded until a solution is attained. Edward Thorndike was the chief exponent of the theory of connectionism or trial and error. He was an American psychologist who conducted stimulus response theory, experiment with the help of some animals. All learning, according to Thorndike, is the formation of bonds or connections between stimulus response. Thorndike's experiment on cat in the puzzle is widely known and often quoted in psychology of learning. The experiment setup was very simple. A hungry cat was confined in a puzzle box, and outside the box, a dish of food was kept. The cat in the box had to pull a string to come out of the box. The cat in the box made several random movements of jumping, dashing, and running to get out of the box. At last, the cat succeeded in pulling the string. The door of the puzzle box opened and the cat came out and ate the food. Thorndike repeated the experiment a while later. The cat again behaved frantically, but it soon succeeded in pulling the string. This was repeated a number of times, and Thorndike noticed that as the repetitions increased, the error also reduced. The cat showed gradual and continuous improvement in performance over successive trials. He concluded that learning of cat in the puzzle box can be explained in terms of formation of direct connectionism between stimulus and response. The experiment sums up the following in the process of learning. Number 1, motivation. In the puzzle box experiment, hunger was the motivation, which was intensified with the sight of food. The number 2, the goal. The goal was to get out of the box and eat the food. Number 3, block. The cat was confined in the box with a closed door. Number 4, random movement. The cat persistently tried to get out of the box. Number 5, chances of success. As a result of this striving and random movement, the cat, by chance, succeeded in opening the door. Number 6, selection. Gradually, the cat recognized the correct manipulation of latch. And number 7, fixation. At last, the cat learned the proper way of opening the door by eliminating all the incorrect responses and fixing the only right response. Through the experiment, Thorndike explained that the learning was nothing but the adoption of correct responses and elimination of incorrect responses through trial and error. The next theory that we will now talk about is the behaviorist theory. Behaviorism emphasized the learning of facts and skills that authorities such as teacher or school boards have decided are important. While these theories have many different names, we will use the term behaviorism here. Names associated with the behaviorism include John Watson, an American psychologist who was very influential in the 1920s and 1930s, and B.F. Skinner, another American psychologist who had a tremendous impact on education in the 1950s and 1960s. Behavioral approaches to teaching generally involves the following: breaking down the skills and information to be learned into small units, checking students' work regularly and providing feedback as well as encouragement, teaching out of the context. Behaviorists generally believe that students can be taught best when the focus is directly on the content to be taught. Behavioral instruction often takes the material out of the context in which it will be used. Direct or teacher-centered instruction. Lectures, tutorials, drills, demonstration, and other forms of teacher-controlled learning tend to dominate behavioral classrooms. Behavioral teaching and learning tends to focus on skills that will be used later. You learn facts about Pakistani history, for example, because it is assumed that knowing those facts will help you a better citizen when you are an adult. You learn basic mathematics, computational skills because you may need them when you get a job. Behavioral learning does not, however, generally ask you to actually put the skill or knowledge you learn into use in a real or authentic situation. That will come later when you graduate and get a job. The behavioral emphasis on breaking down complex tasks, such as learning to read, into sub-skills that are taught separately is very common in schools. In the elementary school classroom, for example, students may spend many lessons on phonics skills. Other literacy skills, such as appropriate uses of comma, may also be taught in separate lessons. Often by whole class lectures followed by individual activities. Let's now look at the Gaston theory developed by a psychologist known as Wolfgang Kohler, who belonged to Gestalt School of Psychology. According to Gestalt theory, perception of a situation as a whole gives better understanding than sum total of its parts. That is, the situation viewed a whole will definitely look different from that viewed through its parts. Kohler conducted his most famous experiment on chimpanzee called Sultan. In the experiment, Sultan was put in a cage and a banana was placed at some distance outside the cage. Then the chimpanzee was given 2 sticks, so constructed that one stick could be fit into another and make the stick longer. The hungry Sultan first adopted with its hand to get the banana. Then he took one of the sticks and tried to pull the banana nearer, then tried with the other stick, but failed to reach it. By this effort, the chimpanzee became tired and dismissed the attempts to reach the banana and started playing with the sticks. While playing so, one of the sticks got fitted into other and the stick became lengthier. Immediately, Sultan became elated and pulled the banana with the long stick and ate it. This sudden flash of idea to reach food with longer stick was called an insight by Kohler. He conducted many experiments to prove that learning takes place also by insight and not only by trial and error. He concluded that the occurrence of insight to find solution to a problem is possible by perception of whole situation. Kohler conducted many experiments on this line of learning to prove that just trial and error method is not enough to find solution for many complex problems. Trial and error or association through connectionism and conditioning may account for simple acquisition of knowledge, skills, interests, habits, and other personality characteristics. But it is absolutely insufficient for solving complex problems.
In an experiment at the Great Ape Research Institute in Japan, a chimp knows that food is hidden under a stone. Researchers replace it with a heavier stone. If two chimps each know about the food, can they work together? In repeated trials, no pair of chimps has ever cooperated to synchronize their pulling. If one chimp is replaced with a person, the other animal still doesn't collaborate, at first. But eventually, it figures out the sweet rewards of cooperation. Ultimately, the chimp learns to ask for a helping hand.
While these are some of the most notable theories of learning, there are other equally important learning theories that are highly relevant today. Jean Piaget's stages of learning is one such theory that we shall now discuss. Piaget believed that children go through 4 universal stages of cognitive development. A child's cognitive development is about a child's constructing a mental model of the world. Development is biologically based and changes as the children matures. Each child goes through the stages in the same order and no stage can be missed out, although some individuals may never attain the later stages. Piaget did not claim that a particular stage was reached at a certain age, although description of the stages often include an indication of the age at which the average child would reach each stage. What is sensory motor stage? The first stage is the sensory motor stage, lasting from birth to up to 2 years. The main achievement during this stage is objective permanence, knowing that an object still exists even if it is hidden. It requires the ability to form a mental representation, for example, a schema of the object. The second stage is the pre-operational stage. The second stage of pre-operational stage that lasts from 2 years of the age to 7 years involves young children being able to think about things symbolically. This is the ability to make one thing, a word or an object, stand for something other than itself. Thinking in this stage is still egocentric and the child has difficulty taking the viewpoint of others. The third one is the concrete operational stage. Piaget considered the concrete stage that lasts from 7 years of age to 11 years as a major turning point in the child's cognitive development, because it marks the beginning of logical or operational thoughts. This means that the child can work things out internally in his head rather than physically trying things out in the real world. Number 4 is the formal operational stage. This stage begins at approximately age 11 and lasts into adulthood. Dear students, that's all for today's lecture. We discussed in detail about the nature and meaning of learning and looked at some of the most important theories related to it. I hope you enjoyed the lecture and were able to clarify your concepts. Until next time, goodbye from the TV studio of AIOU.